Today I learned a new to me term, which is friend stalking. Here's why I hope that you choose to use this during your postpartum as well.
Hey lady, welcome to the Postpartum on Purpose podcast. If we haven't met, my name is Annemarie. I'm wife to James and mom to 5 beautiful kids ages 10 and under, plus 1 miscarried baby. Here we see postpartum from birth all the way through baby's first year of life as a time of grit, growth, and grace. This is episode 93. Hi lady. Listen, let's not waste any time tonight because there is a beautiful guest episode that I have coming for you. Starting off with free things, as we do. If you've been around a hot minute, you know that free things is mental shorthand for a gentle reminder that a rich, beautiful, meaningful life is available to all of us, no matter the size of our budget or our family. And secondly, that there is always, always something to be grateful for. Free things this week. Monday was Memorial Day, if you're listening in real time or close to it. And we went to visit my parents, my family, and got to enjoy time with them. And then also with my aunt, uncle, and 2 cousins who live just down the road from them. It was a real privilege to just spend carefree timelessness. If you ever know or knew Matthew Kelly, who's the founder of Dynamic Catholic, he has a very distinct Australian accent and he's a big fan of carefree timelessness, spending time with people without counting the cost or watching the clock. And then on the way home, this is the fun part, I got a text, and I had not really been checking my phone during the day. I had left it in the car, and I saw as we were preparing to leave that a new friend, like very new to us, had texted and said, "By chance are you guys free this evening to join us for a cookout with so-and-so and so-and-so? You are most welcome." And they were on our way home. It's about an hour and 50 from my parents' house back to our house, but they were on our way home about half an hour from where we live. And we stopped in, and I thought maybe we'd stay for an hour, but we stayed for 2.5, I think. Supper, and then lots and lots of talking, and then an adult badminton game, at which I was horrible. Our host asked, "When did you play badminton last?" I said, "Oh, probably 10 or 12 years ago." And you could tell. But it was a great gift to be able to spend time with them, and in that spontaneous way. I really enjoyed that. I like spontaneity, sort of. Sort of, I like spontaneity. I'm a huge planner. But spontaneity sometimes is a great thing too. And the second free thing was just that I have borrowed, I think, 6 books from the library now by this author, Will James. He wrote some of the original cowboy stories at the turn of the 20th century. So in the early 1900s to 1920s. I believe I'm saying that right. And the last one he wrote, I think, was in 1951. So maybe it's better to say like 1920s, 1950s. But they're just fascinating books, and they are easy enough to read and appropriate enough that my 10-year-old is also reading them. But I just thought, if I were to try to order these things online even, I would have spent, I don't know, $50 maybe, getting 5, 6, 7 books from the library, ordering the 5, 6, or 7. But to get them from the library is absolutely free. Those are my 2 free things this week. And then one small change. One small change, you recall, is just a reminder that no matter what seems hard, difficult, or even impossible today, it won't be that way forever. There's always something shifting during postpartum for yourself, for your baby, for your family, physically, emotionally, the dynamics, all of it. And our one small change this week, my one small change, is that just a couple days ago, I decided to put my phone into bedtime mode because I remembered I've seen a lot of places lately that you want to avoid blue light right before bed so that you can have better quality sleep. And I thought, okay, well then I need to grayscale my phone at, let's say 9, if I'm going to go to bed around 10 or 10:30, or if you're watching Mission Impossible with your husband every night, getting through the movies, maybe 11. Not that I'm recommending that, but I put the phone on grayscale, and I pretty much haven't taken it off since then. That's 48 or 60 hours ago. The amount of time that I have spent on my phone has dropped exponentially, like from the top of the house to the basement kind of a thing. It's just fascinating to me. those are the things I wanted to cover for our usual beginnings. And now let me introduce Marianne just so briefly. I asked her to speak and share her postpartum experience because she knows what it's like to give birth in a place that is not home or doesn't feel like home yet, because she gave birth very shortly after moving. And her testimony is one of what it's like to be new in a place and not have anything like a support system around her yet, and what that feels like. Something I've talked about before with other guest episodes, and that I always emphasize to my guest hosts, is that I'm not asking them to wrap things up with a bow. I'm not asking them to be a teacher per se, as in, here's what you need to take from my experience. What I hope that each guest host is offering to the listeners is a sense of solidarity, a sense that you're not alone, no matter what your experience is, that there's somebody else out there who knows what it's like to go through what you're going through, even if not exactly to a T, but that you're not alone. That's the point of these guest hosts. Not that anybody's trying to be an expert on anything, though I always say you're the expert in your own experience. But the point is not that you come away necessarily even with a laundry list of things to do. Though I do hope you will consider taking up what Marianne calls friend stalking. But just in general, I hope that what you get out of these episodes, these guest host episodes, is just a sense, oh, it's not just me. It's not just me. Without further ado, lady, here's Marianne.
Hi, Anne-Marie. Thanks for having me. My name is Marianne Swingle, and my story is all about moving across the country, very much pregnant. I was 8 months pregnant, and just what postpartum was like, dealing with postpartum depression and all of the things that come with moving and postpartum. Yeah, my husband, we were in Denver, Colorado. My husband got offered a job when I was like 7.5 months pregnant. And we moved when I was 8 months pregnant. And he didn't even intend on looking for a job. It truly all happened within like a 3-week period of time. When he found the job by accident, definitely God working in there. He found the job by accident, interviewed a couple times. They flew us out to Springfield to visit, and he signed his contract while we were there. So that was probably about like a month total. And then within 3 weeks, we had packed up our entire lives in Colorado, where I am from. So that was quite an emotional experience, leaving the place that I call home, packed up our entire lives, and moved to a place that we had only visited once before. So my husband started a new job, and I was 8 months pregnant. Within 3 weeks, our daughter was born, Pia, and dealing with being pregnant, having an almost 2-year-old son with us, helping him get adjusted and understand why we moved across the country and where we were, finding all of the things that you need to find when you have a toddler. So, a new pediatrician, new playgrounds, new friends, as well as finding all the things that you need to find when you're pregnant. So a new OB, my son was a C-section because he was breech. And so I wanted to find an OB that would be willing to do a VBAC or a TOLAC. So finding an OB who was a female, who was available, who was willing to do a VBAC, and getting all of the medical records transferred over, all while grieving the loss of my home. Springfield, Illinois is very different than Colorado, and it's a lot of cornfields and not a lot of mountains, or any mountains. And then also having my husband start his new job. So his stress with his new job, my stress trying to make the best life for my toddler son while we were there, also trying to prepare for our daughter, who would be arriving imminently, and feeling just all of the feelings of loneliness, confusion, sadness, leaving my home, and stress unpacking, especially my husband is the most wonderful man ever, but he is not the most organized packer, so trying to find all of the things that I would need for a newborn that was like, they were shoved in with, the liquor cabinet stuff was like padded with the diapers, and everything was just everywhere. So that leading up to giving birth was quite stressful. And then gave birth. I gave birth unmedicated, which was quite an experience, having done a C-section before. She came very quick. It was all back labor. It was sure something memorable, that's for sure. And I just remember laying on the bed and the OB, like, not having had enough time to vet her out. I knew that I wanted to be able to move around, to eat, to, labor out of the bed, to give birth on all fours, or however my body wanted me to give birth. I wanted that and wasn't able to find that, since I just kind of had to go with whoever was available first. So the OB experience wasn't great, and immediately postpartum, she started pushing birth control, even when I had explicitly told her that's not what we use, that's not what I want. And so I just remember like laying on the bed on my back, which is the worst thing for back labor, at least for me. I thought I was going to break the arm of the bed off. And I just remember screaming like, just cut me open, just cut me open. And granted, the nurses here were absolutely wonderful. They were so sweet, so encouraging. They were calling me sis. A bunch of labor and delivery nurses came in. They're like, we heard a lot of noise. Is everything okay? And then when they learned that I was giving birth unmedicated, they were just like cheering me on. So the hospital team was amazing if the OB wasn't. So it really was a good birth experience all in all. My husband was there. He was absolutely amazing. And then it all ended, right? You give birth to the baby, all the cheering goes away, and now you're here with a baby in a state, in a city that you're unfamiliar with, where you don't know anyone. You don't have friends coming to visit you. Luckily, my mom was in town just in time for the birth of my daughter. She had come literally the day before. My daughter was born a week early. So she was taking care of my son, which was a huge blessing. But not knowing anyone, only FaceTiming my friends from Colorado to tell them, but just feeling so lonely and so isolated. And I was so grateful that even though my husband had just started his job, that they had given him 6 weeks of paternity leave, which he wasn't sure he was going to get any because he had just started his job and that wasn't a guarantee. So having him home for 6 weeks was incredible. My mom stayed for a couple weeks. Unfortunately, I had to go in the OB once again. Not being able to communicate my wants and desires for how the birth went. She ripped the placenta out, and there was a piece, I guess she didn't check, we didn't know, I'm not sure how it works, but there was a piece of placenta that was still attached to the uterus, and so I was hemorrhaging internally, not a drastic hemorrhage, but, a couple days after coming home from the hospital, feeling cramps, feeling like I was going into labor again, totally freaked out, and essentially birthed this like softball size blood clot. So having to rush back into the hospital after calling labor and delivery again, being rushed back in, leaving my newborn daughter at home. So all of the emotions being separated from her. Thankfully, my husband, when we learned that I would have to be admitted and have a DNC to remove that piece of placenta, my husband thankfully went back, got her, and she was able to stay with us in the hospital. So I was able to continue nursing her and just being with her in that very fragile period of time. That was only like 2 days after she was born. So having the drama of not just my first unmedicated birth, but having to go in for a DNC, being so scared, having heard about all of the dangers of DNCs, mostly from like, abortion stories that you hear on like live action, hearing, oh yes, the abortionist pierced her uterus and she died or she got sepsis or whatever. So I will never forget the moment that they were wheeling me out. Also, like, I couldn't eat or drink anything for 9 hours, being freshly postpartum, nursing a baby, being constantly hungry and thirsty. It was just a miserable experience. And I remember them wheeling me out, and I was just crying, and I was like, I love you, Tony. I love you, Tony. I love you, Pia. Tell the kids I love them. Like, I was so convinced that, like, I was going to die on the table. So that was definitely traumatizing. And once that was all done, my daughter was just a terrible sleeper. My first baby, he was hard to wake up. All he wanted to do was sleep. And my daughter was the opposite. All she wanted to do was be awake, be with mom. And I am not the most wonderful mom when I don't have my sleep. Sleep is so vital to me for just functioning as a normal human being. I do not do well with lack of sleep. So really suffering on a lack of sleep, having a kind of colicky baby, for the first time, 1 out of 2 babies, was the easiest baby ever. And then my second baby was just very, needed a lot of attention. So having a lack of sleep, having to hear a crying baby all the time, even if I was with her and caring for her and taking care of her every need, not knowing what was going on, feeling like a failure, not having a community of women to support me. I don't remember who, but someone set up a meal train for me. Maybe it was one of my husband's coworkers, but I didn't know anyone. And Annemarie, actually, I will never forget, you brought over a meal for us, and it was carnitas, and you put it in these, like, yogurt containers, and I don't know why I remember that, but I was just so moved that someone who didn't know me went out of their way to make me food and make sure that I felt welcome, that I felt cared for. So I'm so thankful for that. And it wasn't, I don't think I even actually met you until like 4 months after that. But yeah, the people bringing us food was so wonderful. But even then it was just, I was so in the thick of it. I had struggled with postpartum depression with my son, AJ. But I was able to kind of prepare for that because I knew that I had PMDD during like my normal cycles. I had PMDD during ovulation and was already on Prozac, fluoxetine. I was already taking Prozac. And having a baby who was so good at sleeping really helped. And Tony and I were able to talk about it every day, be like, hey, how are you feeling? Or I'd come to him, I'm like, hey, I'm just a little blue, I don't really know why. And we'd talk about it. But now, having a lack of sleep, having to unpack our entire lives while having a colicky baby, while recovering from just the trauma of thinking I was going to die on the operating table getting a DNC for the placenta removed. It was just a lot. Feeling so lonely. The loneliness was crushing. It was so crushing, to the point that I'm truly, honestly, I'm scared to have a third baby. Now I have a wonderful community here. Now I have a lot of moms with kids my age. Now I know the good playgrounds. I know the good splash pads. I know the, restaurants or whatever. I have the community built in here. But the postpartum depression was so debilitating. I remember Tony's parents came a couple weeks after Pia was born, and I was just, I think, I don't know how to put it other than I just felt like I was just such a burden, or I was just always feeding Pia. Like, all she wanted to do was nurse, even if it was just comfort nursing. Even to this day, she sucks her thumb. Like, that is just how she comforts herself, is just by, like, sucking on something. And I was that thing for the first several months of her life until she realized she had thumbs. Thanks be to God. But so I didn't feel comfortable just, having my boob out, nursing Pia in front of my father-in-law. So I was just in our bedroom, locked away, feeling just even more isolated, even more depressed. And my husband would come and check on me every once in a while. But, hearing them laughing, hearing them playing card games out there, it just made me feel even more isolated. It was a horrible time. It was a really horrible time. But I know that I came through it, with the help of my husband, with the help of women around me. Actually, because of that period of time, I started a little group called the Lonely Moms Group, because so many women that I had met were young mothers, so they had littles, like their oldest was like 6 and under. And they were like, man, I'm just so lonely. Because there's in Springfield, there are so many homeschooling families. It's truly amazing. But the older kids are like 10, 11, 12. And so all those moms get together. But the moms with the really littles, we didn't really have much of a community. So I was able to start that pretty soon after I was postpartum with Pia. And that was a literal lifesaver, as well as I do need to mention, like, talking to my OB and getting a higher dose of my Prozac is literally a lifesaver. Really, really taking advantage of like the medical community, going to, the lactation meetings, going and talking to my family practice doctor about just like postpartum stuff, finding a counselor who would help with not only just like the normal ups and downs of postpartum, but also helping with the moving. That was huge. Just getting like a community around me and wanting to feel like I was serving a purpose. So starting the Lonely Moms group, and we have play dates once a week. It's actually a community now, and we see women that we don't know, and they have kids, and we just try to welcome them in, because I will never forget the period in my life where I felt so cripplingly lonely. So for moms out there who are moving or who have moved with a newborn, or moving pregnant, just take it one step at a time and friend stalk is what I did. That's a term that I learned from one of my friends in Colorado. It's like you just see a mom across church from you and you're just like, she looks about my age, she looks cool, I want to be friends with her. And I know you can really get in your head. I think I was just so desperate for friendship here. I remember just being in adoration, and there was a girl that came in and she was crying, and then she got up to leave, and I was like, hey, excuse me, how old are you? Because I couldn't tell if she was like in high school or if she was 30, one of those ageless people. And she was like, I'm 26. And I was like, hey, you want to be friends? By the way, my name is Marianne. I just moved here. And she is one of my good friends now. And she was going through a big life change too and needed new friends. And I didn't know that. I thought she was just crying for, over a breakup, which she kind of was. But friend stalk. Everyone needs friends. Everyone needs friends. Just put yourself out there, and that is the best and fastest way to beat postpartum depression. Find a spiritual mentor or a spiritual director who will remind you that yes, while it is hormonal, postpartum depression is hormonal, it is also Satan attacking you in motherhood. Motherhood is such a beautiful and holy vocation that Satan will definitely attack it. Find other moms around you. You never know who's lonely and looking for friendship. It's a hard period of time, and I wouldn't want to do it again. But my daughter's about to turn 2, and I'm slowly healing from just all of the hurt and the hardship in that period of life. And my husband and I are slowly coming to terms with the idea of discerning a third child. So just be gentle on yourself and trust in God and really lean on your husband and friend stalk like your life depends on it, because it kind of does. And you'll come out on the other side eventually. It does get better. Just hang in there and make sure you're getting the support that you need.